Alright, time to break in the new room, eh? Gonna have to put you down now, okay? Gonna talk about some anime. Steins Lawlor Region of Déjà Vu is the kind of epic title you can only really get from a Japanese anime translation. This is a 90-minute movie based on the anime series Steins from 2011, which is based on the visual novel of the same name from 2009, which is the second addition to a series called Science Adventure, along with something called Chaos Child. None of this is important, I just didn't realise how deep this rabbit hole actually goes. Anywho, Steins is a series I enjoyed quite a lot. In fact, it's one of the few anime I've actually bought on Blu-ray, because anime on Blu-ray is really fucking expensive. The problem is I watched it dubbed, so I also wanted to watch the dub of the movie, which is why this video is coming out now, and not 4 years ago when the movie came out in Japan. Funimation can be pretty slow sometimes, but my point is, my expectations for this movie going in were pretty high. Maybe even too high, but we'll get to that. The movie takes place 1 year after the events of the series, and everything seems fine at first. Nobody's dead, all the time machine equipment has been destroyed, Ruka has a penis, you know, the status quo is basically as it should be. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, Okabe starts to experience these frequent but erratic bursts of head pain and disorientation, wherein he briefly hallucinates being in another world line. And at first this is dismissed as like psychological residue from jumping between world lines so much in the past, but everything just gets way worse from there. All the English voice actors are back, and if you know Funimation, you know that they are consistently solid with their choices of voices. The choices of voices! Everybody does a very good job returning to these roles, and that is a bigger deal than you might think, because at this point in the story, every bit of investment you might have is purely character driven. In the series, they had this plethora of interesting concepts to put front and center and make you think, wow, that's amazing! But by the time you get to this movie, none of that has any of the wow factor that it did before. It's still an integral aspect. I mean, what is Steins without some kind of time travel? It's just not impressive enough to take the center stage. There has to be more of a focus on the characters, and there is. What I'm trying to say is how much you like this movie is going to be pretty much purely based on how much you care about the relationship between Okabe and Makise. If you don't care much about those two characters, you're probably not going to have the best of times with this one. And if you don't like any of the characters, I'm not really sure how you made it through the show, but don't watch the movie. Did you find Daru's geeky references kind of irritating in the series? Because this movie has a lot of those. Personally, I'm just kind of lukewarm to a lot of these characters, so that aspect of the film kind of just ended up ranking kind of meh to me. Sadly, the story around those characters was also not great. Again, it felt a bit like they were really trying to impress with all the new concepts involving timelines and stuff, and I think doing that is just sort of instigating a losing battle, because it doesn't work, but at the same time, if they hadn't tried to do anything like that, that would have been even worse, so there wasn't really any good way out of that for them. Honestly, I think they just set the bar a bit too high in the series in terms of stuff like that. And the core of the story just feels like a bit of a rehash of the series. I don't know if that's intentional and they're going for like a victory lap type thing. In fact, I think that's probably the most likely scenario, but maybe it's not and they just didn't realise how closely they're recreating the emotional beats of the series. But it definitely feels to me like they've spent a little bit too much of this movie essentially saying, hey, remember this thing from the series? Remember this character? Remember this running joke? And consequently, it just fails to show that it has any of its own legs to stand on, as opposed to just borrowing some really tall stilts from the original series and walking around going, hey everyone, look how tall I am. Honestly though, for as much bashing as I'm doing on this movie, it's really not that bad. For one thing, the animation is good. Like, really good. Like, maybe even better than the series. I remember in the series, everything was just kind of washed out and grey all the time. In the movie, things are a bit more saturated, a bit more colourful. A lot of people might not like that decision, but I don't know, I did. And as I mentioned, if you really like these characters and you just can't get enough of their weird quirks and stuff, you'll get along with this movie just fine. But to me, it just kind of felt like a 90-minute long OVA. Which is fine if you're into that sort of thing. But as always, my name is Caleb Lawlor, and if there are any movies or anime you want me to review in the future, leave a comment letting me know. Follow me on Twitter for all the juicy updates and stuff. Follow and subscribe wherever you're watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Oh, get it? Time? Because it's like a time travel. All the English voice actors are back. back. I can't speak. Okabe starts to experience these frequent but erratic headbursts. I'm so not in the fucking mood for this.